We have been graced with the presence of what I would call the coffee god of Cape Town, Tyron. Thank you for joining us in the studio. Tyron is the founder of Ekhaya coffee roasters. They are based out in Strand. They have been supplying us with their premium, top-notch, best-in-class, award-winning beans for around a year now. Since we started and have been trying to navigate this journey. He was kind enough to come through today and do a crash course with Leslie, hone in the skills, have a look at our equipment, and is just doing his rounds, really investing in the people that are stocking his beans and by virtue of that representing his brand. So we felt it was only right to drag Tyron upstairs and get him to come and share a bit more of his story on how you landed up with this incredible brand, where the logo came from, the story behind it, a little bit of background if you're comfortable to share it.
I know, for sure, I will.
I look forward to taking you on the journey.
Thanks so much. First of all, thank you for letting me be here. And thank you for being one of the first few that were like sold with the brand from the beginning. Because without you, I wouldn't be here. That's part of the course of where the brand is now, and where I want to move it forward to is people like you, and as much as I came now, it's really bad that it took me this long to get here. But I'm here.
We've both been busy. I wouldn't have had you until we finished downstairs.
Thank you. No, it's exciting. Going back to where I started, I mean, obviously I'm also from Benoni. We're Benoni ponies, we're Benoni boys. But yeah, I guess if I had to go back to where I started in school and how it all happened, I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was really young, as well as ADD, not ADHD, ADD. So
school was a breeze.
I guess in terms of school, it was probably the most difficult time for me in my life. My mom was always there pushing me and being there for me. If I didn't have my mom there in that time, I think I'd be lost. I'd be a lost cause. Then I was in Kazakhstan, and then I moved to St. Dunstan's, and St. Dunstan's is purely academic. I won't go into politics of St. Dunstan's because that's another story, but purely academic, and that was a huge challenge for me. I remember going to school, and I'm not saying that I'm unfortunate or anything. I'm very fortunate for where I came from, but it would be school, extramurals till maybe some sport in between, extramurals till like 6, maybe 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And that's just purely to get through the academic side of it.
Kansas kids were at St. Dunstan's as well, along with many of our friends. My cousins went there, so we're very familiar with. Wouldn't say that school because that's normalized. It's insanity. Kiss your kids goodbye in the morning, and you see them again at dinner time. It's just like.
And I can't imagine the cost from my parents' side to fund me to do that. And obviously, it's good education, and school's good for you, and good values that you learn. But then after school, I was kind of lost as well. Like the social side of things, very different, very weird, super weird. Still to this day, I don't really understand it. But
you're describing yourself as super weird socially in school.
I guess, like, I was always a sociable person, but I guess you always find a place. And luckily from my dad, he always taught me to be social, and luckily I learned from him, and to this day I still try to carry that with me. So then went to college, didn't know what to do, had no idea. Like left school, you have to go study now. Gosh, all right, what to do? I studied sound engineering.
I recall.
It was a great course.
Yeah.
Then in my third year started working in television, still studying, got an opportunity to do my first gig on television.
Okay. Where was that?
That was it was in Randburg. It was for a company called Red Cherry.
Okay.
And it was still the most I ever earned.
Really?
Like my highest paid gig. was the first gig I ever got in sound.
Damn. And were you, okay, so that's
I was a
you
sound
behind
guy.
the scenes, sound engineer.
So I was like a sound guy. I had the headphones on, I mic'd people up, and that's your job.
Okay.
And I remember even they were flying us around.
Yeah.
And I was like, gosh, okay, well, this is cool. Then carried on in that for long in sound, and then and then along the way, obviously had multiple, well, not I wouldn't say multiple, but met different women along the way. And I think my first relationship was also just super crazy. I was young, drinking. It was messy.
Yeah.
But I was...
Say no more.
I was chatting to Celine, my fiance now, the other day, and we were talking about how, like, I'd hardly drink now. Like, it's... Yeah, no, it's just crazy. Anyway,
there's a whole story for... And that's a big thing, right? I mean, I know, as you mentioned, we both come from the same place, and there is Benoni in particular, but I'd say Joburg by extension, really does have a different culture. Like it is, and for lots of different reasons, and it's not to demonize or, you know, I enjoy a good time as much as anyone else does, but that culture there is vicious. I mean, when it grips hold of you, man, it's a thing to get out.
It's crazy. Luckily, obviously,
and it breeds nothing good. Very little.
No, exactly. It's just no positivity. And if you're in that and you know nothing else than that, and you know that that's your life, how do you see anything else? So yeah, that ended as it naturally does. And then I actually went and finished my diploma, and then I started to go to do a BSc in sound engineering. And that was just like a whole wraparound day. Like I hadn't done proper maths for like 3 years, and now I'm doing first year engineering maths, and I'm like, what is going on here? Yeah. I couldn't do it. I dropped out in that year, which was okay. Like it was hard for me, but then I started working more. So I kind of like it justified me going, okay, I can't do this, but I'm working now.
Yeah. What separated the academic challenges of high school to sound engineering? So it would still be quite academic.
Yeah.
Did you find that you were more engaged in what you were learning, therefore applied yourself better? And
correct.
Okay.
Correct. So learning, that's another interesting chat. But learning something that you actually have a little bit of interest in, like obviously sound engineering was a whole new thing for me. And I guess I went into it because I had a little bit of interest, but I didn't know what to do. Yeah. I had no idea. Leaving school and that next step on your life is such a daunting thing, and looking back at it, I don't think people should be pressured into doing something straight away, because you don't know what to do. You're 18, you've just finished school, your whole life has been school. How can you make the right decision in your next step?
And typically and I'm speaking for a select percentage of the population, but very sheltered school. You only know, your bread being buttered for you, and you haven't experienced.
You haven't lived.
You've done things. You haven't experienced the hardship of the world, and that shapes a lot.
Huge. So went and did sound engineering, and yes, it was easier. It was easier because I had interest in it, and had amazing mentors that helped me along the way. And I guess I don't want to bring religion much into this, but when I went in there, I was quite religious at the time. And my mentor that was there, his name was Phil, amazing guy, the most incredible person I've ever met in my life. And he was atheist, and I was like, whoa, this is an amazing guy. He's not religious. And that just threw me off in terms of
because you didn't think someone could be amazing and atheist.
And the churches that I used to go to, I used to see the most fake and terrible people. And I'm just saying in general, that's what happened. And it threw me off completely. And I was like, okay, well, there's more to this. There's more to this. And obviously, to this day, I share a view on what it is, but I'm not going to go into depth with that. Sure. But that was also crazy. Anyway, finished the degree, dropped out, started working in television, and good money, like it was really good. As a sound engineer, I worked at Kweze Sports. I don't know if you've ever heard of Kweze Sports, but basically Strive, I don't know, I can't remember his surname, but he opened up Kweze Sports. Crazy entrepreneur from Zimbabwe. He owned Econet.
Okay.
Big money. Anyway, worked there, super cool, earned really well. I was a sound engineer. They used to have magazine shows in studio where sound engineers would work. You would have a whole studio set up.
Epic.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Met some amazing people, but also, once again, drinking culture, huge drinking culture. And that's a common trend in the television industry because you work long hours, you get paid decent, but then you have a lot of time to kill. So what do? You go out, you party. Anyway, I did that for about 4 years. And then on my last gig it was near one of my last gigs, but I was working on a SABC set and it was just before COVID. Actually, it was during COVID. And I was working like 14, 15-hour days and I was getting paid below minimum wage. And I was like, what is happening? And I'd come home and I'd obviously met Celine and we were living together now at the time. And she was like, no, this is not for you. You need a change. You need to find something.
Did the income change as a result of COVID? Is that where the below minimum wage came in?
No, the income changed because there was nothing. There was not a lot of gigs.
Okay. So the high earning job was directly linked to how much work was being done. COVID comes, shuts that down, income dries up.
Yeah, I think it's a multifaceted issue on its own, but I think directly it was like, I was helping a friend out at the time, I will be honest, and he had some incredible equipment and I wanted to work on that equipment. So I managed to take the pay cut because I wanted to work on that equipment, but it wasn't worth it. Okay. Like at the time, I took a risk. And
okay, so you left from the high-paying environment to go and pursue a different opportunity.
Yes.
With a mate, opportunity, played the long game, and that's
I think
coincided with COVID.
Yeah, I think more so that I was a freelancer, so it would be any work that would come in, you would have to take. So my whole sound career was freelancer.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was a place. That
no. It was all freelance, but there was a time where I did work for like 6 months on contract. So most of the time was freelance work. So trying to build relationships with people, grow. And it was nice to learn building relationships with people because that really translates into business.
That's life. Yeah.
So that last gig, I was just like, no, I need to change. Like, this is not for me. I loved sound, but it was always when I did sound, I would be like, am I doing the right thing? And sound is such a perceptive thing. It's probably the most undervalued aspect of television production and film production in terms of on set. When you're on set, you don't have much weight in what you say. People don't respect you as a soundie, and it translates dramatically onto the end product. So where you need to call and say, sorry guys, there was a noise there, we need to cut, we need to retake that, they don't give you that weight and that responsibility on set, and that's stressful in itself. You feel undervalued. You're trying to push for good stuff, but you get pushed back all the time. So I'm glad I moved on from that, but it took me a while because you get used to it. You get used to people love to be comfortable. Like, let's be honest, like being
it becomes part of your identity. For better or worse.
Yeah, true. It becomes part of your identity. So then basically I had a really, really like little bit of interest in coffee. One of my best friends, Richard, we would joke when we would make a coffee and go, oh, I'm basically a barista. And it was like a little joke we had. And I was like, okay, let's actually learn how to be a barista. Let's do something. And obviously Celine pushed me, and I think her pivotal role in this whole story is really important because she really pushed me, and she's like the driving force behind most of the stuff that happens, especially in Ekhaya.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yeah.
So I went and did my first course at a place called Bean There in Joburg at 44th and Stanley, and the guy that taught me, his name is Marcus, and what an incredible guy. I learned how to pull espresso by eye, which is something that it doesn't get taught a lot anymore. But being able to see, okay, those shots being pulled now and it's going golden, and then just before it stops, you stop the shot and you taste and you go, okay, this is how it tastes. This is how it should taste. So learning that skill is super important, and nowadays it doesn't get taught that much. So I did that course, incredible. Then I was like, okay, I need to work. I need to hone this skill, because it's one thing being taught, but practicing it and working on it is a different thing.
Yeah.
So I was always asking them, do you have a job for me? Where can I work? And there was a time where I almost got a job, but it didn't really happen. And then they would openly, which is incredible, like they have such a good space there. They said, okay, cool. Whenever you want to come around, you can make your own coffee behind the bar. So they open that up to their students.
To give you the chance to experience. What was the challenge in finding work? Was it experience or?
Both.
Other factors.
And also minimum wage. So it's a minimum wage job.
Which blows my mind. It's the travesty of this industry, which we'll get to.
Yeah, which is another thing. Like, so minimum wage, also not a lot of opportunity, because I don't want to just work in any place, because I want to get good experience. So a multifaceted issue. Then I found a friend, like in the film industry, that was managing a cafe. But before I did that, actually, no, that actually was in between. So I found this little cafe and then I worked part-time in it. Crazy thing is I'd tell people that I'd be working there, and then they'd come and then I would buy their coffee for them. Because I was so excited to serve them coffee. Yeah. So I'd always run up a tab. Obviously, I'd get paid minimum wage, and then I think
the break-even model.
Yeah, I was literally just spending the money anyway, which is fine because I was so passionate and so excited to learn. Yeah. So that was cool.
Where was that cafe?
It was called, goodness, what was it called? It was in Sandton. It's not there anymore now.
Okay.
I can't remember the name, unfortunately. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I just loved what I was doing, and I guess that's where I was.
Was that working at that cafe? Like, what was the moment where it's like, this is my gig, this is my, because I mean, it's taken over your whole world.
It has become
a big part of your identity, and by extension, your family. When I say your family, you and Celine, as a couple. Like,
that's our life.
It's basically a child of yours. What is the moment where it was like, this is it. This is my gig. Is there one?
There was a moment when I did that first course I'd been there where Marcus said to me, he's like, you as a barista, I'm getting goosebumps talking about this, but he said to me, and one of the basis of the teaching is the barista has such responsibility, which is so undervalued and still to this day undervalued. And the simple thing of that person comes into the door, into your cafe, they could be having the worst day of their life. They could have had something happen that we don't even know, but they come in there, they ask for their coffee, you give them a nice customer experience, like you chat to them, you serve them the best possible cup that you can, because that is your responsibility as a barista. You give that cup to them, you've had a nice chat, they just about to walk out that shop, and this is obviously all he's taught me. I'm not taking any credit for this. Marcus, being there, this is you. You have a sip, and that person's life and that day has changed completely 100%. Just from a good cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So you own, like, and him explaining that to me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, because I've previously had those experiences. They talk of the God cup, where you have that most incredible cup of coffee, and it like changes your mindset towards coffee. I'd had it previously, so when he explained that to me, I was like, gosh, that is it. So yeah, that's as early as that.
The concept of the God cup, which is interesting. But as you said it, a moment immediately jumped to mind, which was Kimali, whatever it is, in Loop Street, Long Street, Cape Town. They had those, those coffee bean bags, and I actually went past there. I see that's winding back the clock. How's your normal coffee abuser. Like,
you just
at coffee at the office, it was recoffee. I couldn't care less. It was just caffeine. It was consumption for as fuel, as energy, or the perception at least. And then went to that place, and it was like that first sip. I was just like, wow,
I'm blown away.
Like a drug that hits you, and it's just like, it was just unlike anything. Like, there's nothing I can compare it to. Really,
that's your God cup.
Yeah, that was, as you say that.
Yeah, it's your God cup.
I'd be interested, anyone watching this, to comment on their God cup moments. I've never heard the saying before.
They talk of the God cup.
I may have had a second God cup moment downstairs once you perfected our.
No, there was nothing bad there.
I definitely had a God, whatever. What do they call those things? Pasta donatos? At your store. So when we first came past,
yes. I've got better ones.
I don't want to jump ahead, but we on our way on holiday to. It was not on the route to where we were going. It was an hour detour, and I was like, "We are going to Tyron's shop. I'm not going there for one more minute because Strand's is a bit of a drive, and
it is a bit out of the way.
I mean, obviously, to say that the flat white was brilliant is an understatement. That pastry was like, all of us in the car were like, "Should we get more for the drive?" I was like, "No."
You know what's crazy is I've even got better ones now.
I'll be returning.
Yeah,
or stocking, one of the two.
Yeah, you'll have to. We'll have to. I'll tell you, we'll sort you out downstairs.
Yeah. Anyway, so you have your God cup. You've now.
Yeah, so that was the moment when it changed, and I knew that my entrepreneurial side. I already knew. I was like, okay, I want to open up a cafe. But the person inside me was like, I'd wanted to always open up something my whole life. It was like, I want to do something for myself. Like my dad is a super crazy entrepreneur. He's an incredible man, and I always wanted to do something myself. And everybody asked, "Why don't you work for your dad?" I was like, "No." And he pushed me not to.
That's the Benoni model. The Benoni model is you go to Benoni High or St. Dunstan's or Catstan if you struggle to learn. You go and get a degree that you'll never lose. You join the family business.
And that's it.
You get your GTR, your 3-bedroom house, and that's like the rest of your life. And most people subscribe to that. I'm so glad that Uncle D pushed that agenda of create your own identity.
He really pushed it, hey, and there was many moments where...
One of the many reasons I respect him as a man. Yeah. He's a fucking legend.
He's
second to none.
He's an amazing guy.
Okay, so he actively pushed you to like...
Yeah, to do something.
Figure your own shit out.
To do something, and it was hard because like there were many...
Sure I remember saying like, Tyron, why don't you take it? Get involved with Strata. It's like no-brainer.
It's right there, yeah. And I was like,
okay, so he was actually one of the key voices saying no. Go.
He's like, no,
make your own way.
Do your own thing. Do your own thing. Do your own thing. That. And it was so difficult because I was like, what do I do? I have all these ideas and all of these ideas that I didn't really like have any interest in. And then coffee came along and I was like, ooh, this is interesting. And obviously the whole idea of opening up a cafe, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so profitable.
Yeah, fake news.
That's the first thing you always see.
Ass news.
So we're jumping too far ahead now, but let's go back to the story. So Celine and I, we both, like in our relationship, started developing, and we obviously didn't want to drink as much as we did, and we needed to do something together, and we started going and visiting cafes. That was our date.
Right.
Which still is today, but it is happening less because our life is coffee.
Yeah.
Which is very consuming, which we'll get to. But anyway, we used to go and visit cafes, and the one cafe that we did go to, which is incredible, it's called Father Coffee in Johannesburg.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. They have a roastery now. So we went to their new roastery in Kramerville, and we had a cup, and then we started walking upstairs, and they have an amazing kitchen where they make their own sourdough, like really top notch. And then I saw on the side they had like a whole training section. And I was like, what is this? So I walk up and I see this guy there, and I go up to him and go, hey, how's it? Do you guys do training yet? He's like, no, we don't do our own training, but we have this guy that comes in and does training for us. And he's like, yeah, it's also like internationally recognized. And I was like, oh. Celine and I at that stage were wanting to go overseas. I'd previously been overseas, and I figured out that it wasn't for me and came home. But Celine was really eager to go overseas, and it took her a lot of convincing for me to do it again, but she did get it right. And moving towards us leaving, we went to father, and then this opportunity came up. And I think that every moment in my coffee journey, it sounds crazy, but it was the right place at the right time. I met the right person in the right place that helped me, because me to this day where I am now, there's been so many people involved. And if I forget about someone, sorry, I do apologize. But there's been so many influential people that were so eager to help me and to...
Amazing.
And guide me in the right direction. So anyway, I meet this guy. Didn't know who he was at the time. Just started chatting to him. I'll loop back to him at the end. But he's like, chat to this guy, give him a call. He's doing a course, I think, next week or something, and we are leaving in a month. And I was like, amazing. So found out that it's called SCA, the course that he does, which is the Specialty Coffee Association, which is an international organization which formed, or still does form, quite an influential role in the coffee industry growing. Also a bit controversial, but I won't delve into that coffee politics, because it's in a space now where I don't think it's growing it too much, because there's a lot of money involved.
Okay.
So it's hard for people to get SCA qualified. Anyway, did the course with this guy. His name's Steve O'Con. He's a barista champ. Amazing guy. I got along really well with him. Basically, then in this whole chat, he was like, why are you doing this in the course? Why are you doing this? And I want to go overseas with this. I want to get a job overseas. So he's like, okay, cool. Near the end of the course, he comes to me. He's like, hey, I'm actually going to World Barista Champs next week. Where do you want to work? I was like, no, we'd love to work in Dublin. Yeah. I'd love to live in Dublin, because at the time I couldn't really figure out our visas. I have a German passport and Celine has a New Zealand. So we had to try and figure out where we were going to live. And at the time, Brexit happened. So we wanted to go to the UK, but we couldn't really figure out our whole situation. So we're like, let's go to Dublin. So he's like, cool, I'll network for you. I was like, sick.
Now, Dublin is an obvious choice because the green mamba, you can go in there.
You can.
Our A-grade passport, only international country can get you into.
Yeah, so you can go in there, but luckily my German, I can work straight away. Okay. So I fly in there. So
those are the caveats. You can go there, but you can't necessarily go there and work as a South African. There's
Correct.
A process.
There's a process. So you can get in there to...
You could get on a plane, go there, and with the German one, bang, hit the car and work.
Straight. So Celine couldn't really, so that was another challenge, which we'll get to. Anyway, so he goes to Worlds. We say, okay, we're looking at getting there around, I think it was in January sometime. We're getting there in January. I can't remember the year, but I think it was like 2018. No, it was, when is after COVID? So 21.
Oh, COVID's 2020, isn't it?
Yeah, so 21, I think. So it was still COVID time.
Yeah.
It was like,
I can remember that. I remember when you went.
You have to have your pass and everything. It was a nightmare traveling.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Celine had never been overseas, so I said, let's go on a little bit of a trip before we decide to settle down somewhere. So it was super exciting. We went to Berlin, where I have family there, traveled there. Then we went to Netherlands, and then from Netherlands, we went to Dublin. And in that time of going from Netherlands to Dublin, Steve-O networked for me so well.
What a legend.
That I was in contact with a guy at a company called Bewley's. They're a massive roastery in Dublin, well, in Ireland. And they have a really historical store in Grafton Street in Dublin centre.
Mad.
So I was chatting to this guy named Elvis. His name wasn't Elvis. I figured out later on. He's a Polish guy. But Elvis, I was chatting to Elvis and I was like, cool, we're landing in Dublin this day. He's like, cool, we have opportunity. Come for an interview. So I literally landed in Dublin.
That's nuts, man.
Never been to Dublin before. Got on a bus, went into Dublin the next day. Literally like walking the street, Google Maps.
Yeah.
Here's the place. Went in there, had my interview, got hired on the spot.
Wild.
They were like, when can you start working? I was like, can I just have like a week to figure out, because we needed accommodation.
Yeah.
And we'd been told, like given a little bit of heads up, Dublin, there's a huge housing crisis there. Like obviously there's a housing crisis all over the world, but Dublin, I mean, as a South African, you go to a place, you go, oh, it can't be that bad.
Yeah.
Eh? No, it was bad.
Okay.
So we
shortage of housing.
Shortage of housing, and whatever there is super expensive.
Yeah.
So we're in Dublin, and we're staying at this Airbnb, which is also extremely expensive, like with your rands. Gosh.
Yeah.
So coming to the end of our Airbnb, in my interview, I met this lady named Julie Murray, and an incredible lady. She says to me, "Hey," in your Irish accent.
Don't worry, love.
Yeah, if you're struggling, we've got a barn on the back of our property. You know, we can maybe help you out. So I was like, as a South African, nah, don't worry, we'll be fine. Literally, we were there at our Airbnb for a week, couldn't get a place. Yeah. The last day, we were literally walking, and Celine's like, "What are we gonna do?" I was like, "I don't know." She's like, "Call Julie." I was like, "Okay." Yeah. So I called Julie up. I'm like, I remember the conversation completely. She was like, "Hey," I was like, "Hey, Julie, like, what's happening? We're struggling. We can't find a place to live. We have nowhere to go tomorrow." And she's like, "Shit, let me call my husband." Literally 2 minutes later, she calls me back. She's like, come over. Okay. The Irish are the most incredible people, like amazing people. Sorry, obviously start working there. Celine's a wedding photographer, so she couldn't really work at the time. So she was like trying to do cash in hand, which she did as a photographer, but it was very difficult for us. So it's probably the lowest point of our whole journey going overseas was Dublin, because she couldn't work, so I would go to work as a barista. That it was an incredible experience that I got there, but she would have to be at home. And it was just so mentally draining for her. We come from all the sun. You go there, it's gloomy, there's never sun. She can't get out really. Yeah. So it was a huge challenge for us. We house hopped so many people along the way that helped us, let us stay in their houses. Literally couch surf for 3 months. Rough.
That's what you're in for, if you want to make it work, I suppose.
Exactly. And the amount of experience that I got at Bewley's was crazy. They wouldn't serve a coffee if it didn't have good latte art on it. I didn't know how to serve latte art. I had to learn really quick. I would make a drink. No, can't serve it. Make another one. Make another drink. No, can't serve that. Make another one. Okay. So that's the standard. Yeah. I learned really quick. I had to, which is what the experience that I wanted. Yeah. Like the volumes that we're doing, I need to, I'll get you the picture, but there's a picture of literally like 15 hot chocolates that need milk immediately.
Hectic.
I'll find this picture so you can
put it in. What would like a typical day? Like what are you talking?
So this was
volume?
This was in peak season in December. I think like 200 to 250 cups.
In a day?
In a day.
Okay.
Just
non-stop.
Pumping.
And that's not spread out throughout the day. That's like morning to midday.
That's morning to like 3, 4.
Okay.
And I remember they had a screen up there with all the orders, and it would just be pages. And you just grinding.
I think for a lot of people that haven't been behind, and I hope this will grab the attention of some baristas and the like, but that's a lot.
That's a lot of coffee.
Like when we have 20 people, and we have, in the cyclists, which naturally traveling packs, like wolves. Yeah. When they rock up, it's 20. It's not 1, 2, 3, it's 20 one time. And then you see everything like fire up, and like 20 is a lot. It's 250s.
No,
it's a lot.
It's big volumes. Yeah. It's big volumes.
And that's day in, day out.
Yeah. That especially in peak season. Yeah. Obviously, you go out of season and then it drops a bit. But that was like the peak of Bewley's, which is what I needed. And obviously, they also served alcohol there, so it wasn't just coffee. Okay. So you're looking at teas. Yeah. It's a big menu. Okay. So you have to learn how to make Irish coffees. Because that's a big thing in Ireland. Okay. They also made espresso.
Really pushed that comfort zone.
Espresso martinis. Obviously teas. They're good. We'll chat about that. There's another opportunity there. We'll chat off camera for that.
I might eat or drink all the profits in an espresso martini.
Don't worry. So anyway, built a really good relationship with Bewley's. Celine and I were struggling in our relationship because we didn't know what to do, and so many people in that time was trying to break us up. Like, Tyron needs to go to the UK and you need to stay in Ireland. Like, what?
I remember social forces, family.
A lot of people were like trying to help us, but not giving us what we really needed to move forward. So a lot of self-development happened in this transition period to go to the UK. So we had to, if you have any questions, please stop me because I feel like I'm ranting here.
No, you're telling the story.
Okay, cool. So
brilliantly.
So then there were a lot of social factors and we wanted to move, but we didn't know what to do. And we knew that we couldn't stay in Ireland anymore because Celine's visa was taking too long because she couldn't work without that visa. And we were like, we were itching to move. So in this time, I applied for a late settlement visa for Brexit. So Brexit happened and there was a transition period for anyone that was belonging to the EU that basically wanted to stay on and live in the UK.
Okay.
So they had to apply for certain things. So I applied for late settlements, even though I'd only been there like 4 years earlier. I just on a whim, like let's just try, it's there, let's just apply. So I applied for it and then I received an email and just ignored it. As you know when you apply for something and you get an email and it's like kind of just confirming what you just applied for. So I just carried on with everything. And then we got an opportunity to move to, Celine's obviously also still working in the photography industry. Very cash in hand, but she was doing well. Like there was a story of she had to go to a wedding. She'd never driven in Dublin, and they have these cars. This is cool. They have these cars that you download an app on your phone. You sign up on the app. Nobody sees you. You put your information in there, your driver's license. Then there's a map of these cars. You literally say, okay, I want to use this car. You walk up to the car, you click on it. It opens the car, the key's in the cubby hole. You get in the car and you drive.
So rad. Yeah. First world.
So she used that to go to a wedding, which was cool for her, like very much out of her comfort zone. Remember, like she's never moved into another country. So like the amount of growth that we both had, obviously I had traveled previously, but for her, it was like huge, mind-opening, world is new. So anyway, we got an opportunity to go to Leeds. I don't want to talk too much about this because the relationship didn't go too well, but we got an opportunity to work in a cafe in Leeds for a family from Benoni, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
But I don't want to chat too much about it because it didn't go well.
Okay.
But anyway, still got a good opportunity to learn the cafe, to almost be a manager in this cafe, and great experience. Then I met a guy in recruitment. This is all in Leeds. We found an apartment. We started building a life there, which is incredible. And in this time period of me working in this cafe, the first cafe that I worked in, we basically didn't know if I was going to be able to live there. So when we landed in Leeds, that email that I mentioned earlier, I was lying in bed because I basically took a risk to go there. I was like, I'm going to work cash in hand. I'm just going to make the most of this. See what happens. Landed there, opened up this email. Basically, the attachment that was on there was a document saying I'm allowed to live and work there while this application is pending. I was like, oh my gosh, this is my ticket. I can work and live here. So then we lived and worked there. We found an apartment, beautiful apartment. We even still to this day like, oh gosh, we miss that place so much.
Good times.
It was such a nice place. New build, designed incredibly. Like if we can replicate that here in Cape Town, like we'd make
worth a couple
lots of money. We'd make lots of money because it's a great place to live. Anyway, another rabbit hole. Once you're an entrepreneur, you never want to stop. We'll get to that. But yeah, so Leeds was amazing. Met a guy in recruitment, actually became friends with him, and he's also an entrepreneur. He's a hotshot recruiter, worked for a company, then started his own thing. Crazy business mind. Johnny, you legend if you're watching this, you taught me a lot. Worked with him, worked with him part-time actually, while I was in the cafe managing it. Worked with him part-time, and managed to get a placement part-time, which was crazy. Then I approached him and said, I'd love to work with you, learn as much as I can for you, move away from the cafe. Did that, worked for him for 6 months. Unfortunately, didn't make any placements, but also was trying to grow another part of his business, which was also a huge learning curve for me. So instead of him saying, okay, here's some existing clients to work on, my challenge was to basically go out, find candidates, use those candidates, basically find candidates with jobs that are already out there, basically acting as if it's very a bit dodgy, but basically find candidates using jobs that you found on the internet, then use those candidates to reach out to the people hiring to try and build that business, saying it very much. Very,
I did recruitment. That was my first job.
Wow.
That's go and find the talent and then sell it in. It's much easier than getting job specs and trying to fill.
Correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that for about 6 months. I figured out that corporate is not for me.
Corporate sucks.
So yeah, but I learned a lot about business in that time. Learning how to like take a lead and mold it into something
critical,
like super important part of where I am now. Obviously mine's a little bit more creative now, which I thrive off. So then did that. Then I was like, it wasn't going too well. Then I got approached by a guy that was wanting to open up a cafe, had restaurant experience, was actually a master chef, but knew nothing about coffee. He got through a friend, which was a barista, which also links into the story. Basically, Bobby is the guy that approached me, Bobby Gita. He's an ex-master chef. Said, I need help. I need to open up this cafe. Can you help me? I was like, a little bit not too sure about it at the time, but decided, you know what, let's go for it. And this was near the end of our time in Leeds. And from the beginning, I said to him, Bobby, okay, I'm leaving in 3 months. If you want me, you have to agree that in 3 months I'm gone. He's like, no problem. I'll give it. Let's do it. Because he had no one. So I got the experience of opening up a cafe from a shell for somebody else to serving the first espresso.
Awesome.
And Bobby will laugh at this, but he's a bit wild in the way he does things. So I was like, okay, Bobby, if you can do this, I can do this. Like, you gave me the inspiration. If you're watching this, thanks, Bobby.
Yeah.
Because you've given me the inspiration to do my own thing. And he did it well. Like he moved quick. And it kind of was like, okay, if you really wanted to do something, this is it. This is the time. And obviously in my whole experience of doing this, Celine also worked in cafes as well, got a really hands-on experience, but also worked in the wedding industry. Bit of a different wedding industry over there to South Africa. So she didn't get the traction she wanted there. So we were like, okay, do we extend her visa? What do we do? Do we stay here? Well, I'm saying in Leeds. Do we stay in Leeds? Do we extend the visa? Do we go overseas? So we are considering really in-depthly, like I'd paid good money to an immigration lawyer in Australia. And we were literally almost at final stages of going to Australia. And we were like, no, we need to come home. Like, home is where family is. A friend of ours reached out to us and said, no, well, come to Somerset West. It's booming. Part of this world is booming. And we're like, okay, cool. Let's give it a go. Let's give it a finals try. Because initially, before we left, we were like, let's move to Cape Town. But we weren't developed enough. We weren't at the right time to be like, cool, let's be full on independent. We need to experience the world. And the amount of worldly experience we've got being overseas was priceless. Yeah. Like, me today is not the same person that I left before I went to Dublin.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
So we were like, cool, let's give it a go. Obviously, in this whole process, I figured out that if I roast, it's much more profitable. It's much more lucrative business and you obviously know downstairs, it's a little bit more difficult to chase the margins when you're buying coffee from someone. But somebody has to roast it. So we're like, okay,
it's also very technical to roast, and it's very expensive to get set up to roast.
Correct.
So that's another whole kettle of fish.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. So we're like, cool. If we're coming back, I'm going full in here because I knew, unfortunately, the South African economy, if you want to be successful, you have to open up your own thing. That is just the nature of Africa and South Africa specifically. So I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this properly, and I'm going to go in full on. Obviously, Celine, once again, pivotal in all of this to drive me to do something that I wanted to do. So she always was there saying, okay, you need to do this. I'm here to support you. And
no handbrake. I've got your back. Let's do it.
Still to this day, she works in the cafe with me. To her detriment, because she doesn't like cafe work. And I say this in the nicest possible way. It's not for her. Customer service is not for her. She doesn't like it. And that everybody's character might be for it, might be not for it. Yeah. It's very difficult. Yeah. And we'll get to that aspect of it just now. But we decided, like, let's do it. And with her support, to this day, we have Ekhaya. There was a guy that I mentioned that introduced me to Bobby. His name is Spencer. Spencer is a barista, but he's also an illustrator. And on the way, he also worked with me at Bobby, and he got me into contact with Bobby, and that's how we are now. All of these designs, he did.
Right. So to ask, where does that come from?
Yeah. So a coffee guy. Yeah. And it's weird how all of these things line up and link in.
And the name?
So obviously we decided to come home, and we were sitting there literally in the flats, and we were bouncing ideas, and we're like, what is home in the African languages, and one of the languages of South Africa? And Ekhaya was the what? Ekhaya is home in isiZulu and Xhosa. And
love it.
And we were coming home, and that was the basis, that forms the basis of the brand. We want people to feel welcomed when they walk into the space, when they have our coffee. And obviously there's offshoots of that, but basically it's home. And then we also going now a bit into the brand, but basically, we decided to come home and pitched this idea to some investors, and they loved it. One of the investors is my dad, and another one was Gary. Gary and my dad also form a very good business relationship together, one of my dad's suppliers and customers. Gary was keen to jump on. He's unfortunately not part of it anymore, but hey, business, go through these changes. But yeah, we pitched the idea to them.
How long ago is this?
10 months ago.
Okay. 10 months ago from pitch?
No, I'd say
10 months ago.
So we 10 months ago from being open, I would say probably just a year, and
it moved fast.
Yeah. We knew, and there was so many other factors involved when we landed. Like, unfortunately, Celine's dad passed away while we landed, and that was so difficult to navigate. And gosh, she was a rock, and she still is a rock to this day. But we both knew that if we slowed down, when we got back, we would be stuck in Benoni. We'd be stuck there. So we literally landed. Obviously, unfortunately, Celine's dad passed away. Luckily, we were here. Like, we could have been on Australia already.
A lot of serendipitous moments in your life.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, so many key moments happened, which is great. Like,
so how long are you in Benoni before you head to Cape Town and start this?
A month.
Okay.
A month.
1 month, deal with that hardship, get on a plane, come to Cape Town, shopping for a storefront.
Yeah, literally. So we obviously landed. I did the pitch, keen. The moment where Celine had to deal with grievances, Celine's dad passed away. Then we literally to Cape Town, shopping for places. That was also a crazy story, but basically we were struggling to find a place. There's not a lot of spaces in Somerset West, and there's obviously is coffee shops. So where do we go? So a bit of a dead end in Somerset West. Then I was lying in bed the one morning, and an ad came up on Property 24, and it was like advertised as an office space. And I was like, okay.
It's good work.
And then I looked in there, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's on the beach. I'd never been to Strand before, by the way.
That location is phenomenal.
It's so perfect.
Yeah.
So I immediately sent over the business proposal to the real estate agent, and then the landlord called me, and she was like, love your spot. I mean, love your idea, love your concept. Let's chat. And then the rest was history.
How long to set the shop up?
That was a bit of a slow one.
Slow. I was like, fuck, that thing flew.
For me, it was slow.
Couldn't have been more than 6 weeks.
No. So planning stage, we had a few challenges to navigate regarding interior designers. But that was the slowest part. That first stage with interior designers, they messed us around a bit. Well, I wouldn't say messed us around. It was just it didn't gel.
The vision wasn't aligned.
It didn't gel. And then we had a friend along the way that Celine literally, when came back, took photos of their wedding. And we started connecting and chatting. And she's an interior designer. And initially we wanted to get her on, but she was a little wary of the whole thing. And then decided to go with this other company, and then they messed us around, and then we bounced back to her and said, okay, we don't really care. You're doing this with us. We'll manage everything. But you need to tell us what's up. You need to show us where to go. You need to show us what to do. So I'd say about from design to opening around 3 months.
Okay.
So from May to September, is that 3 months?
A bit longer.
Yeah, about 4 months. Yeah, 3 or 4 months. Okay. Anyway, opened it up. So many people, I would say like, so many people in the initial stages of us being opened were like, oh, there's so many cafes around here and there's so much. I'd say in this time of us being there was a lot of negativity towards us and the success and stuff. And I think as an entrepreneur, and I speak to anyone trying to do something themselves, like there's always going to be negativity and there's always going to be this evil, I would say an evil eye looking down on you. But in anything, and it's one of the reasons why I never started something before, there's always going to be risk involved. And still to this day, I sit there and I look at the numbers. If I'm not there and I'm like, oh, okay, what's happening? And it's important to check the stuff. I didn't miss that. I did a roasting course as well before we moved to Cape Town as well. So, and I did a roasting course, dealt with family, and then moved. And then obviously along the way, we also found a secondhand machine, a secondhand grinder, really lucky, incredible grinder, incredible machine. Managed to find a secondhand roaster.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So literally, I think I mentioned to you everything in the store. I can't remember if I did, but everything in our store is secondhand, except for the air fryers.
You did mention that.
Which is something as well. Like if you are trying to open yourself something, there's nothing wrong with secondhand. As long as it's in good condition and you kind of have an idea of where it's come from, go for it.
Yeah.
Brings down the cost.
Yeah.
And it gives you a bit more wiggle room in regarding spending on other places. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And now we're here. And in terms of the branding, you mentioned the branding. So Ekhaya means home, but I found that Cape Town there's a lot of active culture here. And I didn't mention it, but in my schooling career and growing up, the only way for me to deal with the stresses and how difficult it was exercise. And that was my dad's pushing me. My dad was a cyclist at the time and still is. But that made me sane to deal with that throughout
Such a great thing to teach your children.
Yeah.
That because what a lot of people, everyone has a vice. And there's a lot more toxic options out there. And if your parents can guide you in a way to use that as your outlets, which, I mean, it wasn't for me for a very long time. And that journey into exercise away from other crutches completely rewrote the script of what my life would be like.
Well, here we are today. I think of when I met you, to us sitting here, like
somewhat different.
Very different parts. And yeah,
but there are common themes. There are things that you can do that give you, nothing's for sure in life, and you've got to want things, and you saw the neon sign downstairs. Yeah. You've got to give a fuck.
Yeah, 100%.
And as long as you do about the right things, pretty much everything else sorts itself out. Like if you don't really give a fuck about your health, your well-being, your marriage, you'll sit at a bar and get boozed up every day and make stupid decisions, and you'll loop around that maybe for the rest of ever, maybe not at all. The moment you do, things change. And that relationship with exercise and a positive impact on your professional and personal life is undeniable. And I wish I had it sooner, but I can't I couldn't agree more. And the fact that you can wind that universe into your commercial enterprise is just like...
Yeah, so there's obviously still a lot more that's going to happen moving forward. But basically, yeah.
What are some of the visions for the future?
Gosh,
some of the more simple
like
ones.
This,
we've done a really good job of bringing things up to date. And actually, maybe before we get to that, just to summarize some of your achievements. I mean, I found it amazing that you've already been voted. Correct me. What is the award?
Yeah. So in 3 months, we were voted best new roastery. So we had only been open for 3 months, and we'd been nominated. I didn't even know of this.
So this is the big thing, because I asked you, Tyron, how do we enter these things? Where do you go? So maybe just explain that.
So the Coffee Magazine, they do amazing work, but basically they have awards every year for the coffee industry, and they have different categories. And basically these categories would form a different part of the industry. And in order for you to be part of this, you have to be voted by the public.
Yeah.
So the public go out, and then they say, it gets put out and say, who would you nominate?
There's no way to engineer this one.
No, yeah.
I know, because I've looked.
So you get voted by the public.
Yeah.
And basically we were nominated, and we didn't even know this was happening, which is because obviously we're so busy and we're working on the cafe.
Must have meant a lot.
It was crazy. Like when we got nominated, I got an email from our green bean supplier and said, "Well done on the nomination." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" No, go check it out. And then I was like, "How does this even work?" So we had to, like, the same question you asked me, like, "What is this about?"
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
So then obviously leading up to the actual awards ceremony, we had no idea what was going on. And basically what happens when you get nominated, then it goes to like this select few people in the industry, and then they vote, and then that winner comes from the people that have voted in the industry. There's obviously a bit of controversial side regarding how it gets voted and if it's fair, but at the end of the day, it took us 3 months and we were there, which in its own, like, I'm still a little shocked that we got it, but we did. And it's thank you. And it's once again, I always will say this, there's so many people involved in this. It's not just me. Obviously I'm the driving force, and there's so many people behind the scenes. And even to this day, like, I still, every day, I'm like, gosh, one of the biggest things that I've learned, because I wasn't an entrepreneur before this, is, and I like to summarize it as this: you'll always have to make a very, very valuable decision every day. And in terms of that, it's more like something that either contains a lot of money or is influential to something on the bigger picture. So there's always at least one decision where you have to make, which is responsibility. So I wasn't an entrepreneur, so I'm having to learn this. And that is stress. No matter how you want to look at it, it's stress that as a person that works for someone doesn't have. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, and I'm learning every day. Like there's no
once you learn that you'll be okay and you can handle it, there's no going back. Having had numerous failed and successful enterprises over the last decade, and some, it's game over. So as a good interlude to what is on the horizon, what are some of the ballsy, crazy out there things, and what are some of the more simplistic
What's crazy
additions?
Is the funniest thing is there's like always new ideas now. Like it's crazy. There's another friend that I've made through the cafe, and I think, I know I'm alluding back to this, but coffee shops are so pivotal in the community, and the amount of people that I meet on the day-to-day, and I try my best to absorb as much as I can from every person I meet, and I make it intentional. I ask them sometimes really hectic questions, like if there's one piece of advice from your success. I mean, I meet so many different people from different walks of life, but mainly the entrepreneurs. I ask them every time, like, what would you recommend? If you were in this position now, how would you pivot to this? What would you recommend?
Yeah, smart.
Which is incredible. Like, I read somebody actually in the industry told me that New York has a problem right now in their coffee industry because professionals, really, really trained professionals, are using barista jobs, so they're becoming baristas to find jobs, to network.
Because you interact with so many people. Yeah, that's crazy.
And this is happening.
Really
this is a common trend.
Wow.
So they're having issues with staff turnover, which is another thing. Staff is always going to be a difficult thing, and that's probably my biggest thing at the moment is staff. And to get back to your question and what's next, I mean, I've been in a situation now where I'm trying to grow the wholesale side, but I'm too hands-on in the store. I care too much. So I'm trying to pivot. I'm trying to find ways for me to get my coffee into businesses. I want my coffee to be into businesses because they pay on time.
Yeah.
Usually before you even deliver. Cafes are a lot more hands-on. You need to train. You need to go regularly check up. You need to make sure they're using your coffee right. So it's a lot more work in cafes. But so yeah, it's difficult. We also, like, I've started a YouTube channel. Like,
I've seen some good content on there.
Yeah. I'm trying.
Put the link up in the video.
Yeah, and I'll do the other way around because I filmed today. But started that. Then we've started a thing called Cafe Sessions. I don't know if you've seen that. But that's also just because we love music. Music is cool. Music is something that speaks way more than words.
Yeah.
That's happening as well. That we want to get into other cafes. So that's Cafe Sessions. We want other cafes to come to us and say, can you host this here? And then we give them the exposure that they want.
Sign me up. We keen. I've got a banging sound system downstairs.
I saw it. We'll do one. In terms of that, that's where we are. So many people have asked me, do you want to franchise this? So many people. And
view?
My view at it is somewhat in the right direction, but it's also mixed because obviously we are doing well. So to replicate this, okay, cool, you're going to make more money. But I've yet to see a successful franchise that translates onto the customer. This is obviously my view and opinion on it, but
business is personal, and you can only spread so thin. There's only so many processes. There's only so many instructions. There's only so much you can do. An owner-run business is the best place to kind of have coffee. And unfortunately, a franchise has a manager. It doesn't have an owner. My view.
No.
I share those. I wish more people would support, owner-run stores because it's food on the table for a lot of people. It's real job creation. It's not to say like go and boycott bootlegger.
No,
absolutely not. They have their place in the world and they do a big job.
Yeah.
Them, Plato, and everyone else. But if you have a local, our store is an example. 8 degrees south down the road. There's the person that benefits from that store growing and generating revenue. It's Leslie. The goal is to uplift her. The goal is to uplift that community and to expose them better. And if there's an environment where you have the option to do that once, twice a week with the coffee you choose to drink, and if they deliver an exceptional product, I feel it's your duty in your community to do that.
Yeah. And
seldom you'll find that the coffee experience is not as good as anywhere else. If anything, it'll be better.
So I don't mean to bring this up, but it's on the same topic now. We're talking about franchise, and a month ago, Plato opened across the road from us. I don't know if you know this, but
I don't.
Yeah, they opened up a month ago, and our sales haven't changed.
Interesting.
I'd say actually we've gotten a little bit busier, and a lot of people ask me, "Oh, how are you doing with the Plato across the road?" And I say to them, "We've gotten a little bit busier," which is the truth. But those people that are going there never came to us. I'm sure our guys have tried theirs, and most of the time they'll probably come back, and that's obviously their choice because they've decided on them which is better or what they prefer. But there was obviously cross-pollination that happened there, and going back to Julie, the lady that I met in Dublin, I called her the other day and I said, "Oh, this is happening." She's like, "Oh, it's great," because obviously she's head of coffee at Bewley's in Ireland. I've also forgot to mention that they used to fly me over from the UK to work for them in their festivals as a barista. I was like, when it happened. I was like, this is insane.
It's gonna be rad one day when they come visit your store.
Yeah, and
that'll happen.
And I'm even thinking of the next trip that I plan to Europe. I should do it over a time where they have a festival, because these are the people that are
like give back.
Yeah, they're like part of the journey. And like I said, all pivotal. But yeah, getting back to the franchising, I might open more of mine independently and then manage them, but that's also another nightmare. Like, there's only one.
The wholesale thing makes sense, and the community, and there's ways to get the home aspect of Ekhaya into multiple places without having an Ekhaya in multiple places.
Yeah,
and that's an interesting place to sit and innovate. One of the questions, it'll be towards the last.
Okay.
We've been going on. Time poor. Have a cafe to run downstairs.
It's people waiting.
Would be on the advice front. If one of the things that amazed me, the guy that trained Leslie initially, Joseph, he's a barista, self-taught, and his give back as a, he's not the super cash flush guy in the industry, but he teaches people how to become a barista so that they have the means to uplift themselves out of poverty.
That's incredible,
Leslie and many others that he's trained. So he gives them the skills, and then they can go and market themselves as someone that can add value, not just, hey, can you give me a job? Hey, I'm a barista. Can I come and, that's 100%. A very different play in terms of your value. Is that part of the horizon? Are you open to, if anyone sees this and they moved and they're empowered, like, hey, Tyron, can you give me advice? Is that something you're open to?
I'm very, very open to it. Like, I already do it on my YouTube channel. I say, like, if you have any questions, please shoot out, chat to me. I'm very open to it. Like, I get emails from people.
Because there, I think there's a big role of what Ekhaya could do.
100%. Like, obviously, I've made a sub-brand, like, few sub-brands. Just let's make another brand, like Spencer, the guy that does all the designs. Like, I'm like, cool, dude, make this one now for us. He's like, okay, cool. I'll make another brand. With my Timex coffee, that's where it comes in. That's where my persona comes in. Ekhaya is itself. Obviously, it's a portal for us to do all these things, and it's the gateway. Ekhaya is the hub, and then everything filters out from there. So my Timex coffee is where I don't mind. Like, I play open cards with a lot of people, probably too much. But
it's a good thing.
That's I'm an open door, and the reason I am here today is because of so many people that were playing open cards with me that have helped me. So why should I be closed off?
Yeah, totally respect that.
And the biggest thing as well is the coffee industry in South Africa, still to this day, has been very closed off. And there's one roastery and another guy that. There's a few people that are involved now to try and grow it and to be and to help grow the industry. It's Yellow Jacket Roasters. They won Roastery of the Year last year.
Okay.
Amazing. They want to help grow. Another guy named David from Seam. Seam Coffee, incredible coffee, also wants to help grow the industry. And there are a few more other people involved, but the only way to grow this is to be open to it. Like we've seen it overseas. Coffee industry is booming because people want to grow it. They talk of co-roasters, where you have, like, we have a batch brew machine in our cafe. I still need to get somebody else on there. We're still growing, but we'll have like a guest roaster within our roastery to help grow the industry.
Tattoo industry does a lot of that.
That needs to happen. More of that. Like, we'll have collaborative cuppings. So I don't know if you know what cupping is, but basically you get only a small amount of coffee from the farms. You roast that up as a sample roast, and then you have 3 cups, which are like really simple filter coffee, and you basically slurp the coffee up. That's a very simple way of describing cupping. But you have cuppings with other roasteries. So I have my coffee, they have their coffee, and then we build the industry together.
Love that.
So we did one for content the other day. We just need to plan and do another one for, like,
to the public. It goes without saying, if we can play a role in that. Shout.
Thank you.
We neglected you in the deep south. We don't have this fire burning that you've got up there.
Gosh.
You've got, like, town, and then the periphery, and like where we are there's a lot of drive, but there's not a lot of...
There's a lot of people here.
But it lacks your knowledge. It doesn't just seep out everywhere. So there's a lot of room for that.
We need to work
on the geography. You need to tap into for your darling active hobo.
Let's do this.
Last question. What did you think of your most recent coffee?
Oh, that was incredible. That was really, really banging.
Compared to the first, step change from, did you have one, did Leslie make you one before you gave her the crash course?
I didn't.
I would love to have known, because I can taste, I've had way too many coffees today. I'm surprised I've been able to converse with you, not jutted off this chair. There's a step change just in.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's
for
so
sure.
glad. I'm so glad. That's why
I didn't think it could get much better, and it's style.
You have good machines.
So thank you. Yeah,
it's just about
kudos to Alex and the San Remo crew.
That's a good machine. It does the job.
Yeah,
more than the job. Yeah, thank you for letting me be here. It really is like
I am so excited to see what you do next. I'm so grateful your dad pushed you to scratch this entrepreneurial itch, because more than the passion and focus you have for this one thing, there's an entrepreneurial fire and spirit burning there. And if with the acronym we use for our neon sign downstairs is GAF, if the GAF is there, everything that follows will be amazing. So all I'd ask is rope us in for the journey. We'd love to play ball and connect as much as we can from that side to here. A ride from Ekhaya to Ekhaya would be great, because that's not impossible for us. There's a Simon Stoffberg out there, could certainly rally the troops.
Maybe I have his number.
His nutrition sits downstairs, so there's tons of motivation.
Let's spark. I think
there's not enough being done.
I think the fact that I'm here and it's the start of something that we can definitely work.
Well, if I listen to your journey of serendipitous moments, meeting people and things being born out of them, pray God this is one of them. But thank you for coming through. Appreciate your time.
I'm glad I'm here. Thank you for having me.
To many more.
Cheers.
Okay,
it's an empty cup.
Thanks, Boyki.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Really appreciate that.
No.